Live. Hey, Christina. Hey, beautiful people. Welcome, welcome. Christina, what's your husband's name again? Choice. Give him my love. I've been meaning to send you guys a note, but I just been, you know, I'm talking to someone in IG, and I got my friend here talking to me, waiting for him. He's like, whenever you're ready, I'm here. And I'm also buying time, giving people time to come in. Hey, Jenny, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Wonderful. Well, we've got something to say. That's what I titled today's conversation. We've got something to say. Now, those of you on IG won't see Jeannie unless you want to check me out on Facebook. But other than that, you will hear her. And Jeannie, if you hear any feedback, let me know. All right, let me turn my volume down.
Okay.
So, well, yes, for those who don't know me, which that's a lot of people, even though I'm constantly out there every day. I am Ade Adefowoshe. I am your self-care specialist. My work really it's about reminding people and supporting people to coming back to themselves, reminding people of the capital S self, the true self, and it's rooted in belonging, identity, and healing a sense of displacement. So that's why I'm excited about talking to my friend today, Jeannie. We've been having this conversation for a while. Anyway, before we jump into that, will you tell people about you? What you want to tell people?
What do
She's
I
a big
want
shot in Atlanta.
to What do I want to tell people? I want to tell people that my name for English speakers is spelled Jenny, but it's pronounced Jeannie. It is a Hispanic name, and I also have dedicated my life to uh, sharing with young people that they belong and sharing with young people that they can be anything they want to be in life and they are worthy and they are perfect just the way they are. And through the use of art, I do this. And I always tell them there's no mistakes in art, just like there's no mistakes in who we are as a person. And I do that all through my nonprofit organization, which is Draw Change.
Hmm. Now I want to go back. Were you saying I get nervous when we're live like this? When I'm talking to you on just the phone, there's no problem. I'm like, okay, is it Jenny or Jeannie? No, it's Jeannie. So I'm like, because I'm traumatized. What'd you call me? So before we went live, I was talking to Jeannie. I interviewed her on my podcast maybe 2 years ago now,
Yeah.
because she might say more about Jenny, and somehow all through the podcast I was getting her name right, but towards the end I said Jenny. She said, "What you call me?" I was like, "I'm sorry."
Because you know better.
I
You
do,
know better.
I do.
And you
You
know
know,
the trauma attached to my name, and you still called me that other name.
but did you say Jeannie was a Spanish name, or you're saying your last name?
Well, and my last name is Portuguese, actually.
Really?
My dad's a quarter Portuguese. I never talk about
Quarter, quarter
quarter. I
Portuguese.
never talk about that because I don't have any ties to that culture. But
Hmm.
my name, my brother wanted to name me Jeannie, and my mom did not know English at the time. She had just come
Mhm.
to America, and my mom wrote down Jeannie in how she would write it in Spanish. So actually, when you say my name in Spanish, is Jeannie, because also we speak Castilian in Uruguay, so we speak with the j instead of like in maybe Puerto Rico, my name might be Yanni, but
Right.
Uruguay, it's Jeannie. So the closest I could get in English, which that's a whole other conversation. Why do I have to change my name? It's my name. It's who I am. But the closest I could get in English is Jeannie.
Interesting. So you said the language you speak in Uruguay is what is it called? Casta.
Castilian.
So it's not Spanish?
Nope. It's actually a whole other language, but it's
Really?
very, very similar to Spanish. Yeah, but it's considered its own language. Little lesson.
Yes, I've learned something new today. And it actually ties in with what we're talking about, this whole thing about identity. You know, you may have heard me talk about my name, particularly my first name. I used to say Ade. No, actually not. See, now that I say correctly, I have to really think.
I know
I have
that.
to, I have to really think about the incorrect way I used to say my own name. Um,
Ade.
Ade. So the
Well,
right pronunciation is Ade, right? Ade, and I say Ade. That's it. There you go. And that's happened when I moved back here. Moved back here from Nigeria. I don't even know. I don't even think I thought about it. I don't know if people call me and say Ade. And it wasn't until maybe about 2 years ago that my ancestors were saying it's time to go back to pronouncing your name correctly. And that was difficult
yeah.
because I default to Ade. And it's like, no, Ade. And some people still call me Ade, which, I don't mind. But something about names, and I know for me, even though I can't remember how that even happened, what I also remember is when I moved back here to UK from Nigeria, I didn't want people to know I was Nigerian
Right.
because of the stereotypes, because of the judgments of people from the continent of Africa. I wanted to blend in. I say Ade instead of Ade. And you're right. I mean, it's just one of those things you shake your head to. It's like, wow. Because when I look back, it's like, wow, what happened? And this whole thing about having our minds colonized
Mhm.
and how we neglect our own culture, our own tradition, our own heritage in order to fit in. And sometimes it is in order to fit in. But I know for me and other people that I've talked to, we try and fit in because we don't want to stand out. We don't want people to make fun of us. And we end up losing ourselves, right?
Yeah.
You can
Yes.
you can say something.
No, what I'm thinking of is even country names
hmm
because I'm from Uruguay. I'm not
Oh.
I'm not from Uruguay. I'm not from Uruguay. I'm not from I can't I, all the Americanized ways of pronouncing the name of the country. And then
hmm
people ask me, well, and I say Uruguay just because that's
hmm
the closest I can get to Uruguay and make
So
people not.
Uruguay is not a correct way of saying it.
It's this is my point. The Castilian way that you say the name of my country is
hmm
Uruguay. But
Oh.
why do we as English speakers feel like we could just change the pronunciation of the country? Like,
Mm.
and when people ask me, like, but how do you say it in English? I get upset and I tell them it's not an English speaking country. You say Uruguay. If you can't say Uruguay, then you can say, at least try to get closer and say Uruguay, but don't say Uruguay because that's not how you pronounce it. So
Mm.
that's even with a country, and I get defensive over my country, so I can't, over the names. It's
Yes.
we like I like how you said colonizing of our minds because we feel like we have to change who we really are. It's the definition of assimilation, but we
hmm
have done that to quote unquote survive in a country
Yes.
that's not accepting us just because first and foremost we might not look like them, and it's
hmm
just very upsetting.
You know, we talked about, okay, we're going to talk about belonging identity, and this part of the conversation, we didn't literally write down what we're going to talk about, but I see how this is showing up because as I listen to you in this whole thing around names and countries, I still kind of get a little bit of charge when, which is interesting for somebody who wasn't pronouncing his name correctly. I get a little bit of charge when Nigerians name their children an English name.
Oh yeah.
And then I can say this as Nigerians, I feel like particularly the Yoruba people, we I think part of it is because of religious supremacy, particularly Christianity. We demonize our own culture and trying to assimilate. I don't know about Igbo. I'm not Igbo, but I think Yoruba people do it more. We want to be more English, more American, and we look down. But maybe it's a universal thing. Maybe it's a universal African thing because globally there's a way where the world looks down at Africa, even though it's raping and siphoning all that's good about Africa. Where France would tell you, oh, the Africans are living there and playing football. They're French. Yeah, but let them do something different. They're African, you
Right.
know. And the ways those things live in the body, that it affects how we move around. You know, you and I started this conversation sometime last year. I call it your when you were coming out and how you had to navigate your space professionally and what you had to do. You want to say more about that?
Yeah, so I came out as a Latina last year. I don't know that anyone else calls it that, by the way, so that's unique to you.
Okay.
But I and it was a very, very big decision because it hit me like a ton of bricks of why I was hiding who I was, all at the same time of, from a business perspective, I'm not a white man. So it's already not as easy for me as it is for a white man. And then on top of that, I've been called all, not in a derogatory way, but I've been called all different kinds of races other than what I am.
Like what?
Egyptian,
Oh.
um, East Indian, French.
Mm.
Yeah, a lot of different things.
Anyone ever said to you, "You look exotic"? Because that's usually where people
That's
try to be saying,
the
"You."
worst.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
know.
worst. Like,
I
what do
know.
you mean? Am I
Yes.
a leopard? But yeah, I think, and that's a part of this whole conversation too, is um Americans, and I'll only, I live in America, so I'll speak for Americans. Americans don't realize all the little tiny things that they say that come out of their mouths that make brown people and black people feel like an animal or an object.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
no, I'm not exotic. I'm not a rug. I kind of even lost my point because, yeah, I'm charged by this entire conversation.
Well, you were talking about, people think you're a different race, but where you're from and
Oh,
navigating.
when I came out, yeah, thanks. So yeah, so that was part of the reason why I didn't realize. I honestly didn't even realize because I was so assimilated. I didn't even realize that I was hiding who I was. I didn't even
Mm,
realize that I was afraid to let people know who I was, you know, who I am. And um, when I came out, it just feels like I've only just begun.
mm.
Um, I've hid from my culture my whole life.
So, if you think back, are you able to identify places of things that happened that made you consciously hide your identity?
Um, Maybe going backwards is
Mm-hmm.
still today in business meetings. The person that will shake your hand kind of like this instead of like this. It's hard to
Mm-hmm.
shake my own hand. You would never shake another man's or white man's hand that way. Um, Feeling like
You're
I
talking
have,
more about just holding the tip of your fingers.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah, or
like yes,
or or
shake you.
or like doing like the handshake, like, yeah, or like this kind of, either like this or like this. It's just like, no, shake my hand. This is a business meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to be your friend, or nor do you have to treat me any which way because I look like a woman.
You said because I look like a woman.
It's infuriating. Uh, and this I think is a topic for part 2 or 3 or 4. But I grew up in the inner city, and wasn't it felt more safe to hide my culture than to display it,
Mm, mm,
and that's traumatizing.
absolutely. Wow.
Yeah.
Whew, just thinking about that. I mean, I get it, but you know, but so you said it felt more safe to hide your um your heritage, right? And where you're from. But I don't know if I think about me when I was hiding it, it almost felt like that was what I needed to do. I think we look back and go, oh my God, what did I do?
Mhm.
But then, I mean, because I remember there was this guy, I've shared his story many times on my podcast, Robert. He's white, always picking on me, always picking on the way I sounded, my accent. Oh, he used to get on my nerves because I didn't like that I had an accent. Because I meant that I stood out. You could tell I'm from Nigeria. And I was trying to change the way I spoke. And one day I just thought, I'm tired of his bullshit. If he makes fun of me again, I know exactly what to say to him. So I was all ready. And of course, true to form, Robert was like, he said something. I said, well, I speak English and I speak Yoruba. He said, no, Adi, you speak Yoruba and Yoruba English. Oh, see, I felt like I had the right thing to knock him out. I just went, I was like, bastard. He got me again. And I literally just made an effort to change the way I spoke. And I remember maybe about a year later, I think I've actually left that college, and some other guys that go to the same college, Southern College, they came, they saw me at the store, and they said, "Oh, Michael, how you doing?" And there was another guy, funny enough, he was from America, but he was living in UK. And Michael and this guy, I can't remember his name, the American guy, I can't remember his name, James, I think he's James. But anyway, they saw me, and Michael, he's Nigerian, but he was born here. He visits, I think he visited Nigeria a couple of times, but he's pretty much British. um, we started talking, and he was like, Adi, how are you doing? And then when I start talking back, it's like, oh my God, Adi, because Adi. Oh, now I can't stand it. It's like, you talk different. What happened? But I can tell you that before that time, I literally practiced how to say words. I would repeat it in my head. I would say over and over to not sound Nigerian or happy. It wasn't like I didn't want to sound Nigerian. I didn't want people to laugh at me. So I need to sound more British. So I'll be in my bathroom sometimes, getting ready for work, repeating words. And when Michael said, oh my God, you sound different, a part of me felt good.
Mhm.
Like I've achieved the goal of not sounding like I'm from Nigeria, where I'm from.
Yeah.
And when I look back at that, it's just like, oh, Jesus. In order to fit in,
Right. You didn't feel like you belonged, so you did what you had to do to belong. It's
I'm having a realization right now, which is actually funny, because now the fact that I've lived here, lived in America, I'm very impressionable. I can pick up an accent. So for me, my accent is a friend of mine in America, Monique. She would say, "You and your Nigerian, British, Southern accent." That's what she said. I said, "I like that." But what was funny is there are some Nigerians, if they just listen to me talk, won't even think I'm Nigerian. Or
mm.
some of them would say, psh, psh, he's lost. My sister's friend once said that. He heard me speak and he said, oh, is that your brother? He's lost. And I didn't know him then, but I've since met him since I moved back here or since I was shipped back here. And I remember confronting him and he felt bad. It was like, no, I didn't say that. I'm like, hell yes, you did. Because I
I
remember you said it. I remember. But the things we do, man, all in the name of identity and fit in.
Yeah. Yeah, and how can you, and I know fitting in all comes from within. I get it. But how do you fit in when you look different? Like
Yes.
I don't want to change, or nor am I going to change how I look.
Hmm.
How do you can I don't know if the word is consolidate, but how do you come to terms with that?
Yeah, I like that. How do you fit in when you look different? And then that sort of how do you fit in when you already stand out? And I think that's the growth, isn't it?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
recognize you're always going to stand out.
Right.
So you might as well stand into standing out, which is one of the things that I say that if you really want to fit in, you got to learn to stand out.
Yeah, I like that. And being a woman, standing out is not always safe. So that's a whole
Hmm.
other. That's part. What are we on? I think we're on part
Yeah,
4 of
yeah,
this.
maybe part 3 now. I hope you remember because I probably won't. Well, say
Yeah,
more about that before we're gonna wrap this up in a few minutes. But say more about that.
it's I just bought pepper spray and a personal alarm to put on my keys.
Wow.
I wish I didn't feel like I had to do that. That's probably the like punchline of what I want to say. And I don't live in a dangerous part of town at all, but I'm a woman, and that's it. That's it. Um, I am often very, or not often, but I am very careful about how I dress because I don't want to attract attention. Because if I attract attention because I'm a woman, and then on top of that, I attract attention because I look different, and then on top of that, I attract attention because I look quote unquote exotic. Put that word in my mouth. It becomes an unsafe place to live.
Wow. Just that just makes me sad.
Yeah, it's a sad thought.
It makes me really sad, and it reminds me of what's Dave Chappelle's joke. One time because Dave Chappelle tells jokes, but he really talks about society.
Yeah.
So he used comedy to educate. And I'm going to butcher this, or actually not say it the best way he said it, but somebody's uncle or somebody was telling him, imagine you have, I don't know, $5 million cash on you, and you have to go in the subway or something. The way he told the story, as I remember it anyway, like he has money on him. The person was trying to teach him something, that he had money and he's going to get in the subway with this money. And he's got, or maybe he actually did have the money. I can't remember, but let's just say he had the money. He had to protect it because he knows that everybody wants what he's got. So he has to be constantly focused on protecting this money. And he drew the connections like, I wish I could tell the story the way he said it, but people who've heard it would say, no, that's not what he said. And those who've never heard it would be like, oh, that's a deep thought, I think. But anyway, and he drew the connection with the attention and the focus and the fear and the energy it took to protect the money. He realized that is what it's like to be a woman. Like all the men,
Yep.
generally speaking, want what you got. And for those who are thinking, what's that? That if I have to tell you, then Google it.
That's part 15. We're
Yes.
not there yet.
And I remember thinking about that, like, wow. And just now, I often say it's funny until it's you. We can laugh at jokes about other people, but until the joke is about you, it's a whole different conversation. So to hear you say, you had to get a pepper spray, an alarm, and because I know, it's like, wow, what is that like?
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't need to tell anyone here, but you know where I live. It's a very safe place.
Right,
It doesn't
right.
have to do with that. It doesn't have anything to do with, unfortunately, it doesn't have anything to do with that.
Hmm.
Um,
Oh Lord.
it's sad. And it just, I mean, I don't know, honestly. I don't know how much that couple, like I said, that coupled on top of everything that we've talked about is a lot. But I don't know. That's why I said I think it's a whole other conversation. I think being a woman is just a different conversation. But I think it's the same. Does it come from the same place? Do do we feel unsafe because the men treat us a specific way because they feel unsafe, so they don't feel comfortable in their own skin, so they make us feel uncomfortable to make themselves feel more comfortable. I got something there, but I don't know what it is. But it has to
Yeah, well, I feel like, yeah,
be
I don't know if men actually feel uncomfortable. I think men feel like empowered, entitled. I
entitled.
mean, it's sexual abuse. Molestation is about power. And we live in a society where we don't respect, appreciate feminine energy, anything that's like feminine. So whether it's being caring, it's like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, well you gotta get over that. Even love, you be like, yeah, what the world needs is love, but come on now, you don't. Love is not enough, or women, yeah, women are weak. women, yeah, you don't have to pay them as much as you're paying men. So there's all of that. I think there's a lot to it, but I think it's just because we don't appreciate the feminine. And I'm not just talking about feminine as a woman, but the feminine energy. We think the masculine energy is a powerful one, is the one in charge, and but you need both. We're miseducated.
Yeah. But
Whew.
I would, I don't know if I want to say disagree, but maybe I would disagree
Okay.
and say, but yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily disagreeing, but I would say that, or add on to it, that I still believe it all comes from a sense of not belonging. Because
Go
if
ahead.
if they felt like they got it together, whatever that
Hmm.
means for them, and
Hmm.
are happy where they
Hmm.
are, I feel like they would feel less inclined to overpower
Yeah,
anything.
absolutely. Because when you belong to yourself, when you really have a better understanding of who you are, you don't need to overpower another. You don't need to abuse another. You can deal with your own shadow ultimately. You can make room for the shadow self and things. Maybe if one day you might feel inferior, instead of thinking I'm going to go and oppress somebody else because I'm feeling inferior or whatever the case may be, you kind of recognize like, what is this about? There's a sense, there's a sort of awareness that makes us more powerful over insecurities, but powerful not like power over, but the power to recognize that I can shift, I can change. So yeah, most of what we're dealing with is a lack of feeling like it's all about a sense of belonging. I absolutely agree with you, absolutely. But I don't know. It's not even a but, and I feel like we are moving forward, but I still feel like we got a long way to go because I haven't been doing my podcast for the past few months now. Last show I did is in September, and I'm actually going to be starting season 5 soon. But there's so much that I've been thinking about that I want to talk about it. Sometimes like I just want to go and do a live,
Mhm.
and I check in, and my guidance is not now, not now. But I have gone in the last, I can say in this last month, just I feel like I'm disappointed by humanity. I'm just mad. Just I can't believe what's happening. And I've shared experience I had recently. I don't know if I told you about it. So how do I say this without?
You're gonna offend somebody. I don't even know what you're gonna say,
Well, it's not that I'm actually not trying to offend. I want to kind of keep, the confidentiality of where the conversation happened. But I think for the most part, I'm okay with hurting people for the most part. Sometimes I'm like, ouch, did I do that? Nah, but I really am in a place where I'm like, yeah, that's a whole different conversation because something else happened about a week ago. It's like, you know what? But anyway, so a black brother shared a video. We'll end with this. Shared a video about a Nigerian church in New Jersey. And it's an Anglican church, which I don't know a lot about. But it looks like they will bring in another priest who is white and gay. I don't know, according to because you never really know. You see these videos and someone puts a caption on it. So basically, the caption said, the Nigerians, Igbo people weren't trying to accept this priest because he's gay. And literally during the Sunday service, a fight broke out in the church. I know. Part of it is funny. It's like, what is happening?
That's
They were
wild.
shoving each other. Some people were singing, and they were trying to move out the way, still singing, and they were fighting this other priest. And there was just wahala, a problem, drama in the church. Because according to the caption, this white priest that they're now sending, we don't want you here. We don't believe the same thing you believe. And then there's this whole thing that's happening in Uganda and, basically in other parts of the continent and not just Africa, but different places. Like if you're gay, you can be killed. So I said if the reason this was going on in this church on a time when they're actually having service because of someone's sexuality, I said it's shameful. And the brother responded back to me. It's like, yeah, that's true. I hear you. And he went into basically just saying about how, yeah, but there is something to be said about that. Basically, it's saying, in a
Mm.
way, it kind of agrees. And that, there's things that men and women are doing now, what we're doing. And, it didn't use the word offend, but something like that. We're offending the Almighty. And that just, because we all pretend like we know what God wants. We all speak as if, we're God's spokesperson. And and black people of color, BIPOC community, Asians, whatever you want to call yourself, Africans, will be the first one to speak up about supremacy, oppression, injustice, and yet, and this is not exclusive to just the BIPOC community, so don't nobody get it twisted. I'm just putting into context. But yet, we have no problem demonizing somebody else for their sexual orientation. And we say it's because of God. God don't need you. Anyway. God don't need your help. Shut the flip up. So I've been thinking about that, and it really makes me sad because I really think it's easy to love. It's easy to be compassionate. It's easy to care. Or if that's too hard, it's easy to ask questions, seek understanding. But most of it, we're trying to fight to be the next supremacist. We're trying to be the whatever supreme one. We're constantly fighting for that position of being supreme, as opposed to recognizing that we belong. So,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, this is. I'll stop because I'm getting riled up, and
I know. Like I said, there could this conversation could go on forever, but yeah, I know you and I talk about this a lot.
we certainly do. We certainly do. And then, anybody else out there want to join the conversation, let us know. Maybe next time when we come on, we don't know what that's going to be. If you let us know, we'll let you know. You can join the conversation. But really, I'm very clear that if we don't heal the sense of belonging, those of us, even the white folks who deny their heritage, who deny that they have ancestors, who deny what their ancestors did. That's why some of them are doing what they're doing. Like what the Republicans are doing, it's because they're denying the truth of what happens. Something in them will not, they can't face it. So they come up with laws and bills and say, no, we're not doing that. We don't want to read that because they're in such denial. And we, it's time to grieve collectively.
Time to face the fear.
Face the fear, face the shadow, and tell the truth. And ultimately, once again, it is about power. People feel like if other people have room on the table, then that's less of the pie for me.
Right.
And so we have to fight to protect the pie that we have because I have 8 slices of the pie, but if you come, then I might have 7 or 6, and that's not enough. Power and greed. Power and greed. Anyway, Jeannie,
Thank
I'll
you.
let you say the last word because I'm really told, like, anyway.
The last word. Yeah. Thanks for opening the lines of communication. More so, and yeah, I just agree. It's if we all spend a little bit more time with ourselves, you and I included, because right, you and I are the ones right now that are feeling this certain type of way.
Right.
We can get closer to just I don't know, feeling better, feeling
Yes.
just feeling that connection to all, and
Hmm.
being such powerful lights that we shine so bright that we blind we
You
blind
know,
that.
yes, but you really, that's what I'm feeling. I know I said I would let you say, but we don't believe it sometimes. We don't believe or accept that if we shine bright enough, we will exterminate the bullshit.
Right.
So we think, why should I shine and they're not shining? What if I'm shining and they're still causing? We don't understand our power. We don't understand how powerful we are.
Mhm.
And yes, we will shine and get rid of the darkness.
I'm gonna go shine. I don't know if you're gonna go shine, but I'm going to shine.
That's a song. Actually, I can't play it here because then Facebook is going to be talking cash junk like this music. Do you have permission for it? But I'm gonna share. It's a song by I think they're called uh, Beautiful Chorus. Yeah, I'll send it. I'll share it with you. And it talks about this little light of mine, but they did a different twist on it. It's a beautiful song. But yes, we're here to shine and bring all the accents and
Right.
all the right pronunciation of our names and show up. Because if we deny ourselves that, we're denying humanity of a gift. And the ones who are going to be afraid, we're going to continue to be afraid. We can't help them.
Right.
So, Jeannie, thank you for this conversation. We'll
Thank
plant this seed here, and other people will catch it later, will get what they need to get, or get nothing. I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And 10 years later, I'm like, oh my God, I get it. I was denied my identity. They were right. Because I know we are.
Right. We're all doing it.
hmm
Yeah.
Anything you want to say anything about draw change? Did you want people to know? You might as
Um,
well.
yeah, right. Thanks. Go to drawchange.org. I said it in the beginning that what the work we do is very tied to this conversation. We work with children around the world that are in a situation where they may not know their worth and
Mm,
may not feel like they belong because they are of a lower socioeconomic condition, for example. So, yeah, if you're interested in what we're talking about as it pertains to art, drawchange.org. Thanks.
yes. As I asked you, I'm like, what am I going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know. I got a lot of things going on, but I don't think. One, there's going to be an announcement coming up real soon. There was something else that popped in my head, but I can't remember what it is. But this I want
Yes,
to talk about.
that beauty.
My baby. Spiritual Appetizers for the Soul, my new book. You can pick it up at Amazon, Barnes and Noble, anywhere where they sell books. And if they don't have it, you can ask them. That'll make them order it. So if you go to any bookstore, online or brick and mortar, and they don't have it, that's a reason for them to pay attention. And it's a book that you got a copy, right?
Mhm.
And it's not a book you read from beginning to end. You can open it's just downloads and messages that can bring you back to yourself, to remind you that you belong, to remind you that you're part of something greater. And if you do get it Amazon, please feel free to actually please I say free feel free, but leave a
Do it.
review. Rate it and leave a review. I never used to pay attention to reviews. Or even I get things to review. I'm like, oh, whatever. Now that I got my book, I'm like, oh, I see why people are always asking to do a review. Anyway, yes, soul food, not soul food, spiritual appetizer for your soul on Amazon. Is it for your soul? Yes, for your soul. Because I sometimes jack it up. See, it's wrong. See, I jacked it up. It's not spiritual appetizer for your soul. It's spiritual appetizers for the soul.
That's funny. You got to know that title.
Well, I used to have a radio show called Soul Food for Your Consciousness.
So you're,
So
yeah.
sometimes I call it Soul Food for that's what happened. Anyway, Jeannie, thank you very
Thank
much for having this conversation. As easy as it was for us to have this conversation, I know for some people it's not always easy, to really just tell your own truth about your heritage or where you've been hiding. So thank you, my dear friend, and I'm glad we finally did it. We've been talking about this for over 6 months.
you. No, over a year, I think.
It's probably over a year. Yep. And when was it? Was it last month that I said, well, I'm waiting for you to do this live. And you said, actually, I think I'm waiting for you.
And
Uh,
and the last thing, the reason why we wanted to do it live, I mean, there's multiple reasons, but one of the reasons is because we know that there's so many people that are sharing what we're talking about, and we both agree that we haven't heard it talked about enough or at
mhm,
all.
mhm,
So
mhm.
let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it because we've got something to say. That's what I don't. When I wrote down, I'm like, do I want another topic? So we've got something to say. I'm like, can I? But it actually makes sense.
Right.
So whenever we come back, we've got something to say. Part 2, part 3, part 15.
Yep.
All right, beautiful people. Thank you very much. You can find me on IG, a being of love. Drop life coach Ade because that's this outdated. We're taking it to the next level. I
Nice.
love and appreciate you, my dear sister friend.
Oh, I thought you were talking to the people.
Well, sort of both, but you are the people too. Good. Well, okay. Let me be honest. I usually end any broadcaster do by saying, "I love you, I bless you, I appreciate you, and I thank God for you." But when I said I love and appreciate, my mind was like, "That's not how you end it." So then I was like, "Okay, direct that towards Jeannie, and then you can."
Nice, nice. Well, you know what? Even though that was not directed towards me, I love you and I appreciate you anyway.
No. Anyway, thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, people. Love and blessed. I'm out of here. I don't know what I'm saying now. Bye. Well, hey, Lucy. Lucy was like, it's time to go out.